Welcome to Thinner Peace in Menopause and Beyond. This is Dr. Deb Butler, Master Life and Weight Coach, and as always, your coach. Today's episode number 158. I've got one of my favorite clients. Okay, listen. You can't pick your favorite child and you can't pick your favorite client. So yes, all of my clients are my favorites and I love them all. Just so you know, it's true because I think you probably hear me say it all the time. I do. Okay, I got a good one. Stay tuned. Hi, all my dear friends. How are you today? Spring is popping in my backyard. And you've heard me probably tell you many, many times that I have the woods in my backyard, which is so gorgeous. And you know, in the winter, because everything is bare, I always get to see the sunsets on the horizon because the trees are bare. So now, right now, we're in the beginning of all the buds just coming up. So there's just like this slight greenness just running through my woods. And I am going to watch the symphony of spring begin. And it is one of my favorite things. And it's so nice to be so aware. So I'm talking to you and I'm looking outside and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I am so grateful for all of this. And I'm also grateful that I don't have to do anything for spring to do its thing. Which brings me to this podcast today. So today I want to share one of my clients with you, LaDonne. She is a beautiful human being and she's got a beautiful story. And I know how much you love to hear my clients' stories before and after because they're all starting where you are. I promise you that. And I love for you to see what happens when they learn the tools that I teach and apply them. So enjoy this interview. And at the end, I'll pop back on and I'll give you a few of my thoughts. Enjoy. Hello, LaDonne. Welcome to my podcast. So good to talk to you again.
Well, thank you, Dr. Deb. It's wonderful to be here and have this opportunity.
I know and you know right now how wonderful and amazing you are at this point in time of your life. But before we get into your amazingness, I would love for you to share why you reached out to me to begin with. And how you found me, and just for the listeners to hear, because there's probably so many people out there who are where you were. If we start with the amazingness, people just go, oh my God, that's never going to be me. But I think if we start where you started, then people are going to, oh, I can relate to her.
Okay. Well, I would have felt like that too, that I never could get where I am now, but here I am. But we'll start with where I was.
Yes.
So I had gotten to the place where I just felt like everything in my life was a battle of which I really didn't want to fight. I wasn't really willing to fight it. I was just overwhelmed. I was overweight. I was tired. And I think when I first spoke with you, I used the word desperate. Mm-hmm. That's how I felt. I was desperate. But I kind of hide well. So maybe my husband, because he, of course, lives with me and he knew it. And maybe my children did, but I don't think anyone really knew how bad it was, maybe. I especially didn't want my kids to know about it. I didn't want them to know how badly I was struggling. Mm-hmm. Because here I was, their mom. I was always trying to fix their problems, always had tried to fix their problems. And here I wasn't even able to fix my own problems. I thought my weight, of course, it was a visible sign of something going on. But I had come to know that it was just a visible sign of something that was invisible within me, something going on within me. So I knew that weight loss programs would not be a fix for me. I tried that. That wasn't going to help. So I started listening to your podcast, and there was something about what you were saying that made me feel like there was some hope. And that's when I reached out to you.
And let me ask you, how long were you listening to my podcast before we had a mini session?
I was listening about 3 months.
3 months. And what made you decide to book, The Mini Session?
I think it was when I listened to you talk about the model, because that made me feel like there was something that I could connect to, that you could help me with, that I didn't quite understand. So I think that's what made me really want to reach out to you.
Mm. So, like when we're talking about the model for people who may not know what the model is just a way of being able to look at our minds and realizing that our thoughts create our feelings create our actions, and our actions create our results. And so I'm imagining that when you heard me start talking about the model, you started realizing that your thinking is pretty important.
Absolutely.
And maybe you were thinking that your thinking needed help.
Yes. Yes. That's what I was thinking.
Yes, yes. And I can say, as working with you, is you have been so diligent with all the work that I have given you. And I think in the beginning, you told me that you were 100% committed to doing the work.
That's right. And I carried that out even when I felt so tired and even physically tired at the end of the day. And I would be ready to go to bed. And I thought, no, I am going to finish what I started this day, if I had neglected to do something in my journal, I would go back in, I would write it down, I would take time to think about the day. So I was committed. I carried it out. I worked it, and it did pay off. It is paying off, and I know that it's going to pay off.
Mm-hmm. What was different? Because do you think that you decided that once we started working together, I mean, were you as committed to yourself before that?
No, I wasn't. One of the big thing I would have to say that I was somewhat committed because I was searching for an answer. So in that way, I was committed. But one of the big things that you pointed out to me in the very beginning was that I would need to be kind to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a new concept for me because I would often just beat myself up if I had a failure. And so that was very important. That was almost foundational for me to move ahead and to do the work, because there would be those days that I was going to maybe fall or have a slip up. And I found that in being kind to myself, it gave me the strength to continue on and to succeed.
Mm-hmm. And isn't it interesting that it seems so simple, the concept, oh, well, you just have to be kind to yourself. And yet, in really putting it into action, would you say it was like you had to retrain your mind to be able to do that?
I did, and I would often hear your voice because you always end your podcast with and always be kind to yourself. So I had to talk to myself a lot during those days in the initial stages of working with you. I had to talk to myself. I had to retrain my brain.
And I would say for sure your brain is being retrained as we speak.
Yes, it definitely is.
Yes. And the other thing that I want to bring up before we move forward is one of the things that you told me in the beginning when we were talking about this is you said to me, you know what, Dr. Deb, actually, I felt like I was going to die if I didn't do something.
That's how I felt. I there's nothing going on in my body that would tell me physically that I'm going to die, but I can remember just being out in a grocery store or just being around the house and trying to do my work around the house and just feeling like I'm not going to make it. There's just no way. And not being able to really point to any one thing that would make me feel like that. But I would often feel like I'm not going to make it. I'm just going to die. And I guess that when one gets very desperate and they're trying to hide it, there's a lot of loneliness in that. And so maybe that had something to do with why I felt that way. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember saying that to you, and I remember groping around the house and feeling that way too. Yes.
Yeah. And I bet there's a lot of people. You know, what amazes me as I get to talk to more and more people is how desperate and how lonely it feels for them when, surrounding weight, the weight gain. And yet that's not what's really causing all those feelings.
Yes, that's right. But I think when we are pulling clothes from the closet and we're trying to fit into something that just doesn't fit anymore, and so that's that daily having to live in a body that just isn't fitting into what we want it to fit into. But that's only a symptom. That's not the real issue, and I knew that, but that didn't feel good either.
And, the other thing that I think is really important to share about you is that you have like 6 grown children.
I do, yes.
Yes.
And nine
And
grandchildren.
9 grandchildren. And and the reason that I'm bringing this up is because I think for you, part of the burden that you were carrying was the burden of all of these people.
That's right.
And I thought maybe you would want to talk about that a little bit because all those people came up in your food journals.
They sure did.
And so we did a lot of work, not on them,
Right.
but on your mind around them. Because in the beginning, I remember you thinking, if they would just do what I want them to do or what I know they should do, I would feel better.
Yes.
Right? Do you
That's
remember
right.
that?
Yes, I remember that. And I just thinking that if my circumstances were different, then I could be different. And I was so wrong in that. And what I learned has just brought so much freedom. So, yes, I have 6 children and the 9 grands. And so a very busy life. And I was spending so much time in my mind trying to solve everyone else's problems that and really, I'm the one that has the problem. That's what I saw. I thought, okay, they do this, and then I started really looking at it, and when I started investigating my own thoughts and started questioning my own thoughts, I came to understand that they're not the ones with the problems. I am the one with the problem. It's in my thinking, and my thinking was just a mess. My thought life was just a royal mess. Everything seemed fragmented. I could hardly make decisions. I felt confused and frustrated, and I think that I used my children and my husband as a distraction, if that makes any sense. In other words, instead of working on me and instead of cleaning up my own life and my own thoughts, I became distracted. I allowed other people, other things to distract me from doing what I should have done in the first place. So they weren't the ones with the problems. I was the one that had the problem, and it all was going to begin in how I thought about things.
And I think this is really good for everybody that's listening is that I think we all come thinking that if my husband would just do what I know he should do, or my children would just do what I know they need to be, like we think we know what's best for them. I know you thought that for sure.
Absolutely. I remember when you first started working with me on this, and I thought, this is, I don't like how this is making me feel.
And I'm not sure I like working with her either.
But I knew what you were saying was true, and I continued to follow through with my commitment. And yes, I think the biggest turnaround for me with understanding that it was my thoughts that were causing my suffering was the day that I sent you an email. You probably remember this. I sent you an email and I just went on this rant about something that had happened.
Mm-hmm.
And
I remember.
You remember because you said to me, this thing that you sent me.
Yeah.
It's full of your thoughts, hardly any facts in here. And I thought, I'm going to get off the phone with her and I'm going to print that email, which was probably about 3 good paragraphs long.
Yes, it was.
I'm going to take a pink highlighter and a green highlighter, and every fact that I have is going to go in pink and every thought is going to go in green. And I just knew I was going to have a page full of facts. And I had maybe two.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else were the thoughts that I had attached to that. And so that helped me to realize, and it just confronted me with what the real issues were at that point and how change was going to happen. And it was going to happen not by me changing my circumstances or my circumstances changing around me. It was going to happen by me working with these thoughts. And there were thought errors, and I just had to agree with that. That took me a little bit of time
Yeah,
because in agreeing with, okay, I have thought errors, I have these things that are not true going on in my head.
right.
I had to deal with pride. You know, the ego wanted to really fight against that.
About the thoughts that you were thinking to begin with, because a thought error is just a thought that really isn't serving you, right? It's not giving you what you want.
Right. That's right.
And you had a lot of thought errors, or you had a lot of thoughts in your head that you believed that were giving you everything you didn't want. And that was hard for you to wrap your mind around,
That's right.
because then you had to take responsibility.
I did. I had to take responsibility, and I had to agree with that there were thoughts that were not serving me that I had believed, and some of them I had believed a whole lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
But I was so willing to do this work and to allow myself to be challenged in that, because last year, when I was going through all the things of just the feelings of depression and all these negative emotions, I will turn 60 this year. And one of the thoughts that kept coming to me, which I think did serve me, was I don't want to turn 60 and be this way. I want to deal with this before then.
It was a great thought, because the result,
Yes, that it has been and is being and will be dealt with.
that's right.
Yes,
And that you won't be like that. You will be different, and you are.
absolutely. Yes.
Yes, you are not the same woman that I talked to when we first started.
No, I am not. I don't feel the same. I don't even look the same. I have had some friends that know very little about me hiring you as a coach, and they've noticed a difference in what is going on with you, LaDonne. And so it really is beautiful right now. It's totally different than where I was.
Yeah. And this is what I want everybody to know. And I want you just to confirm it. Your husband and your children are all still the same, right?
Yes, they are. They are beautiful, and they are
But they
still the
haven't
same.
changed.
They have not changed. They are still the same.
Yes. But the way that you see them and the way that you think about them has changed so drastically
Yes,
that you feel amazing about all of them.
that's right. They walk in my door now, and I can enjoy them right where they are. And I just love that I can love them right where they are right now. And, you know, we're all in different places. Some of us are in better places than others, or whatever. That's a thought too. But I can enjoy every one of them exactly as they are right now.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing. So when we talk, the reason that I brought us to these topics is because it had so much to do with how you started treating yourself around everything, but especially around food, because we took sugar and flour out of your diet as an experiment, maybe after working together 4 to 6 weeks, something like that. And do you remember how you felt about that?
Do you remember?
I remember. I was wondering if you could tell people
Yes.
what about that, because, you know, you are so different now. But I mean, a lot of people have a lot of thoughts and feelings about taking sugar and flour out, and I just want, you know, maybe for you to share a little bit about where you were and where you are now about that in terms of eating and your hunger scale and all of that.
Well, the concept of eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're full was new to me. And so that took a little bit of time to get used to. And I love it now. I was at a banquet last night, lots of people around. And, you know, I ate and I stopped. It was like naturally stopping in the middle of the food plate because I was full.
Mm.
And it's just it's a natural thing for me now, and I just
Yes, but let me just interject. It's a natural thing only because you are mindfully directing your mind to how you think.
yes, that's right. That's
Right?
right.
Because how would you have thought, say, 6 or 7 months ago, if you were at the banquet with all that food? What would that have been like?
I would not have enjoyed it.
Hmm.
I would have had to think through every little detail of it. I would have had to pay closer attention to it at that time. Last night, I just enjoyed the whole experience of it. It's part of me now. I do pay attention, as you said, because I have to be mindful, but it's a part of my life now. It's part of me. So yes, that part as far as the eating when I am hungry and stopping when I'm full, and then
Well, let me interject again for 1 minute, because what I was talking about is like if you would have gone to something like that, say 8 months ago, wouldn't you have treated how you would have eaten and all of that? Wouldn't it have been different?
you mean before I started
Yes,
working with
before you
you?
started working with me.
Oh, I would have gone to the banquet last night thinking about food, thinking about what are they having for dessert, thinking about how much I could eat without maybe anybody noticing that I ate the whole dessert or maybe more than that.
Worried
You know,
about
I
what
would,
other people would think, even though you knew.
that's right. Yeah, I would have been very food conscious. Last night, I was people conscious.
Ah,
Yes.
ah.
And so it really had nothing to do with the food. The food was there. Yes, I enjoyed it. I would have enjoyed it had the food not been there.
Oh my gosh. See, this is, yeah.
And my favorite pie was set out right in front of me. It was just all set out on the table. And I looked at it and I could have had it if I would have wanted it, but I didn't want it. So I didn't touch it. I didn't want it. And it was just as simple as that. It was no drama around it at all. Where months ago, the whole thing with sugar was always a drama. I had made up my mind that I was a sugarholic.
Yes, I remember you talking
You
to me about
remember?
that.
Yes. And I remember you saying, if you don't mind me saying this, you're just scaring the hell out of yourself about sugar and alcohol.
Did I say that?
Yeah, you did. And I thought, she's so right. I am. I built up all this drama about it. And I remember working with the tedious work sheet and just doing the sugar thing and realizing that, okay, if I take the drama away from the sugar, if I stop attaching all these thoughts to it and just allow myself to have a bite or whenever I want it, when I stop the deprivation of it all, or the I should and should nots, then I found that I could have it and or I could not have it. I didn't really care. It became less important to me, which made me realize that the thought that I had that I was addicted to sugar was not true at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to free myself from that. And now I very seldom ever have it because of the changes that have happened in my body and in my brain as a result of not having sugar and not having flour. I no longer have all the brain fog. I no longer overthink things. And I think that does have a lot to do with the physical makeup of what's happening with not having the flour and sugar.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel so much better. If I want it, I can have it, but I don't really want it.
Which is a beautiful place to be. The difference between I don't want it and I can't have it.
Yes.
Right. And I think, don't you think previously, if we would go back, and I think with a lot of people with diet mentality, when they're trying to follow a plan, in their mind, they use willpower because they think they can't have it, which makes you want it more.
Yes.
Right. And it sounds to me like from you right now, what you're saying is the desire isn't there.
The desire isn't there. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
It's not there.
And that's really what the miracle is. If you want to call it a miracle of the work that we do, is that we decrease the desire. So you're not even having to use willpower, right?
That's right. That's right.
And you totally get the model. Like, no, you are a thought ninja at this point. I call you you are one of my thought ninjas. You can do a model backwards, forwards, inside out because you really have understood that when you get your thoughts lined up, you get the results that you want.
That's right. The model has been a lifesaver for me.
Yes. And because you have diligently used it. It's like, I think what people have to understand when they're listening to this and they're listening to you is that you have done a lot of work to get here. And I'm not scaring people about a lot of work. I'm just saying that when you're really 100% committed to yourself to do it, you can be just like LaDonne.
Well, in the beginning, you know as well as I do that I would have been right where a lot of people are. So for someone to have told me 5 months ago that I would be where I am, that would have been hard for me to believe.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I had hope when I started listening to your podcast and I started really looking at the model. It gave me hope. But to see where I am today, I'm just a different person.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And would you say that you're free?
Oh, freedom is the big thing for me.
Tell me.
I mean, I was writing in my food journal this morning and I was thinking about yesterday and thinking about the banquet last night and just thinking about where I was a year ago and where I am today and just experiencing the freedom of that. Yes, freedom is the big word.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel at peace?
I feel content. I feel satisfied. I feel at peace. And those moments that I don't, I pull out the paper and the pen and I write down the feeling and then I do the model from there.
Mm-hmm. So I remember you telling me that you have become your own. You sit with that when anything is going on inside of you,
Mm-hmm.
that you have your own best friend to sit with, which is yourself and the model. And
That's
you
right.
figure it out.
That's right.
And that to me is because that's what I would want for anybody that's listening is to know that your best friend is you
Yeah.
and to love that best friend, you as your best friend.
That's right.
I just,
Yeah. I can trust myself now. I can
Yeah. Tell me
trust.
about that. Tell me about that.
Okay. Well, I was so dependent on another person to help me along the way and to call and to say, this is what's going on. Can you help me think through this? And now I don't have to do that anymore. I realize that I have the tools, they've been given to me. I just pick them up and I use them. And I'm good with that because I see where we have gotten with that. And it's just been so productive. And so I'm okay with that. I'm actually very good with that. That's my preference now.
So basically, what you're saying is you trust yourself over everyone.
Yeah, because because like I said, I mean, I can be someone who hides. So they don't, another person is not going to know me.
Yes.
They're not going to really know me. They're not going to know all my thoughts.
That's
They're
right.
not going to know exactly what I'm talking about, but I know. So I can best deal with me.
That's amazing. Okay, so let me ask you this. If there's somebody out there and they've been thinking about wanting to do a mini session with me, like what would be like, did you want to make an appointment sooner than you did? Were you thinking about it? What was your concern? Because I think it's a hard thing for a lot of people that they're thinking they might want to work with me, or I'm not sure, or what will this mini session be like, or, the cost. What would you say about all of that?
I would say that initially I was beginning to overthink it, and it didn't take me long to realize that's what I was doing and to make the call just to set up a mini session was going to give me facts. It was going to give me the information I needed and the information that you needed in order to see whether you could even work with me. So I just decided that I couldn't lose anything, but I could gain a lot by making the call. So it was a baby step. It was like, I'm not going to think too far out. I'm not going to think about even hiring Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Deb. I'm going to think about what our conversation could be like in this mini session. Just do that. Just that. That's all. And so I initially dealt with it that way. And of course, after we talked, and I realized that if I'm going to turn 60, if I'm going to make some changes here in my life,
Mm-hmm.
I've got to invest in me. And
Mm-hmm.
whatever that cost is at this point, that's what I need to do, because I was not going to continue, or I didn't want to continue as I was. So investing in me became important. And it was the first time in a very long time, maybe the first time in my life, that I've ever invested in myself with a 100% commitment like I did at that point. And I will never regret that.
Wow. I think that's really important. Thank you so much for sharing that. And this is one last question that I would like to ask you before we get off the phone.
Okay.
And that is this going to be the last time you ever have to lose weight again?
This is the last time that I will ever have to lose weight again, because I have been given the tools that I need in order to work with that. Weight wasn't the problem in the first place. The thought life was. So in dealing with my thought life, then my weight just kind of follows suit and starts dropping off. So in having the right tools to work with,
Mm-hmm.
then that gives me the freedom that I don't have to worry about the weight. The weight is not going to be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I won't have to go on another diet.
Mm. That's freedom too, isn't it?
That's freedom. Yes.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here. And all I can say is I love you and I miss you because we're not talking every week anymore. You
Right.
were so wonderful to work with. And I love to see the transformation that you had. And I guess maybe before we end, have you had a transformation?
I have had a transformation. You could ask my husband. And matter of fact, he walked out the door this morning. He said, "Please tell Dr. Deb I said hello." I said, "Maybe one day you'll get to thank her.
I
Send her
love that.
flowers or something."
I love
But
that. I love
yes,
that.
there has been a transformation.
All right. Well, listen, thank you so much and have a beautiful day.
And same to you. Thank you.
Bye bye. Well, I know. She's amazing. And every single time that I'm working with a client, can you imagine this job that I have, if you want to call it a job? This is what happens. This is what happens. People change. They come to me for their weight. Yes, they lose their weight, but do you see, like when you listen to her, how much more she has lost? And that's really what she was looking for. And I just loved every minute of working with her. And I'll tell you why, because I want you to understand this, is that all of this is available to you too. You just have to believe that you are worth this investment in yourself and that you will commit to yourself to do whatever it takes, with or without me. That's all. That's what it takes. The tools are here in the podcast. If you can do it by yourself, do it. It's still the same commitment and it's still all of that. But like for LaDonne and many of my clients, they need a coach. They need someone to help them see their minds more clearly, which is what happened for her. And boy, once she learned how to see her own mind and do the model, which she talked a lot about, her whole life transformed. She is an example of transformation. And I really want to read you something that she wrote to me when she told me that this was going to be the last time that she would ever have to lose weight again. She told you a little bit about this in the podcast, but I just want to read it to you what she wrote because she's also a beautiful writer too. This is what she said. "This is my last time of having to lose weight because I now know where the problem was all along. It wasn't my weight. My thinking was a mess. As my thinking has changed, my life has followed suit. I am seeing weight come off, experiencing relationships restored, enjoying food, getting excitement over little things, and sitting with a feeling and feeling it, pleasant or not. And on it goes. All of this because of what I now choose to think. That is why this is the last time. I just think that's just beautifully written, and I really want you to think about that. That if you want this to be your last time and you don't want to mess around with this anymore, and you want to get your mind straight, then you know what you can do. You can book a mini session with me just like she did and get ready. Take the first step, but know that you are worth the time and investment. All you need to do is go to drdebbutler.com/work with me, and you can do that. There aren't a lot of mini sessions available, so if you want it, you gotta go do it. And then as always, as LaDonne so beautifully put in the podcast interview, you know what I'm going to say, and this is also what she said that she learned. Please be very, very kind to yourself, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
If you're ready to take your eating issues to another higher, more improved level, well, it's time to talk to my wife, Dr. Deborah. She's helped hundreds and thousands of people. Just visit drdebbutler.com/work with me. You'll get a free consultation with Dr. Deb and find out if coaching and talking to my wife is a solution to your struggles.